Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye. I say hello. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Juan, here with Mark
Hi.
and Kevin.
Hello.
And we like movies. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. If you are listening to this, then you have subscribed for our bonus content, and we are thrilled that you have done so. We thank you, and we hope that you have really enjoyed what you have heard so far. Today, we bring you the third and final installment of our Decade series. We started in the 70s with Mark and his selection of Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon. After that, we stopped by the 80s where we viewed my pick, Michael Mann's Thief. And now we swing into the 2000s for Kevin's pick, the 2008 film out of the UK, The Escapist, directed by Rupert Wyatt. Let me jump right into our IMDb synopsis. Frank Perry, played by Brian Cox, is an institutionalized convict, 14 years into a life sentence without parole. I think, even though I don't remember them saying that, but it was in the information there. When his estranged daughter falls ill, he is determined to make peace with her before it's too late. He develops an ingenious escape plan and recruits a dysfunctional band of escapists. Misfits with unique skills required for their daring plan, united by a desire to escape their hellhole of an existence. Much of the action takes place within the tunnels, sewers, and underground rivers of subterranean London. Released on June 20th, 2008, The Escapist is directed by Rupert Wyatt, also known for Rise of the Planet of the Apes and The Gambler with Mark Wahlberg, and stars Brian Cox, Damian Lewis, Dominic Cooper, Joseph Fiennes, Liam Cunningham, and Seu Jorge. It was written by Daniel Hardy and Rupert Wyatt and was produced by Picture Farm and Parallel Film Productions, as well as the Irish Film Board. Distributed by Vertigo Films and IFC Films, it has a runtime of 1 hour and 42 minutes, and it can be streamed for free through Tubi. The film sits at a 65% critic score and a 63% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, so it is officially fresh. The tagline for The Escapists is 5 men, 4 walls, 1 plan. Kevin, this was your pick. Can you share with us why you picked this and give us your initial thoughts?
Well, one, I got the 2000s, which apparently was the hardest thing to find a movie that none of us had seen. And it became down to this or Brokeback Mountain. And since I since I knew about Brokeback Mountain, like I knew the story, I just never seen it. I was like, oh, I've never even heard of this one, but I like the cast, so I looked a little bit into it, and I have read an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, and I seen the Twilight Zone episode, and I was like, oh, okay, let me see what this is about. So that's why I was like, and it looked good, like by the movie poster. So that's why I went in. I said, let's do this one.
What do those things have to do with anything?
Oh, you're gonna find out in a second.
Oh.
I'm about to roll into this. I like the book itself it's about, okay, spoiler warnings by the way right now, that we're gonna be delving into what happens at the end and the twists and all that stuff. This was loosely inspired by that book and by that episode and occurrence at Owl Bridge, where it's in slave times, and they're gonna hang a guy, and he gets away, he gets free, he makes it to the end, makes it back to his family, and at the end you find out, oh, he never escaped, he was dying, and it was all in his mind during his death. So that's sort of what like the ending of The Escapist is, when you think that he's escaped, but it was all in his head. He was picturing what it would have been like, and he passes away.
So you're mumbling when you say the title. Are you saying The
my bad.
Escape at Owl Bridge?
An occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. Sorry.
An occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. Okay.
Yes. And with that, I'm just going to what I thought about it. Um, I liked parts of the movie. I did feel like it was a 30 to 45 minute story that was bloated into however long it was, an hour and a half. So, yeah, 102 minutes. I think it could have been trimmed down more. The performances were okay, but like I said, just some stuff was like I was getting bored just waiting for them to when they were doing certain stuff. And yeah, and that's basically what I thought about it. What about you, Bart?
It was a very interesting movie with a lot of interesting scenes. At the end of the day, I think it overall failed to be what it wanted to be. Um, and that's this, grand story of this story. Um, and it just it didn't work out. And so when it ended, I was actually kind of bummed out that that's what it ended up being. And you know, I ended up not enjoying it as a whole, unfortunately.
Okay, so we're gonna pick your brain, because it
Yeah,
seems
because
like
I'm
you're at a loss for words.
well, because I'm not trying to. I don't want to say things so we start getting into it. I'm trying to just give like and it's very hard because I'm like a very tightly sealed jar right now.
You're a pair of tight butt cheeks.
Oh yeah.
Okay, okay, you are. Okay. For me, I thought that the movie had a solid combination of some things that I really liked and a few things that I felt could have been done better. Um, Overall, I think the movie ultimately satisfactorily, I think that's the word,
You're getting that, baby.
overcomes, I think it does, for me, overcome its shortcomings to be a pretty enjoyable prison break film. I thought that the performances were mostly good. Brian Cox, I thought, was excellent. Um, I also really liked Liam Cunningham in this, as well as Serge George, who I was happy to see him. That's my boy from The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Um, I don't know what to make of Damian Lewis. I mean, what a bizarre character and portrayal. There were some incredible choices made by this guy in this film. Don't know if it's him or the director, but that character was strange. Dominic Cooper, he only had about 2 or 3 lines of dialogue in this, but he did well with what he was given, which included some prison hardships. Speaking of butt cheeks, um, and Joseph Fiennes was pretty good. I was wondering, like, where's Joseph Fiennes these days? We don't see him very much. Well, this was back in the 2000s. He was in a show. He's in some show, recent show, but he was looking pretty swole. I've never seen him that swole. I always thought he was a skinny guy. Um, but it definitely seemed like a different role than I've ever seen him in, so that was interesting.
Hmm.
Again, I will go into some of these questionable choices that hurt the film. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts. Who wants to go first?
I guess I'll start. So yeah, we already talked about spoilers and how we are a spoiler riddled podcast. Yeah, heavy. Um, so for me, I always want to just talk about the end, and so yeah, I want to talk about the end. And he was dead, right? Like he died. He didn't make it out. He died.
Correct.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So it was really, I feel like once I saw that and I'm like, oh wait, so he was dead. Okay. I felt like this movie paid Brian Cox so much money, and they were like, man, his story is really only like 45 minutes long, but like Kevin said, we got to just make it longer. we just got to give him more power. Let's just play out everything. He's going to play everything. And I just feel like the story would have been so much better if Brian Cox, who, stays in the prison and everybody escapes, that story should have been a part of it. And he died and that was it. And then they go off and that was his way. And then we should have had, that should have been the movie. So when that happened, I was just like, oh, I really hated it. I don't know why, but I really hated it.
Okay.
I don't think it had the impact that they wanted it to have. I thought it was okay impact, but it didn't have the whole like, oh, he didn't make it. Oh, like Bruce Willis, he was dead the whole time.
Well, because it felt like he was gonna die anyways when in the escape, because that wound he had was obviously bad, and he's an old man. So it's like, bro, by now you have some bacterial infection in there. You're really pretty much dead. So finding out that he died anyways, but he never even got. I don't know. It was just a letdown on both sides now. I don't
Yeah.
know. It was just an interesting choice, and that really, it just made me kind of just think about all the funny moments in the movie. But that's like one thing that just really bothered me was that ending.
Well, let's back up here and I guess provide
Yes,
listeners or
no, yes,
viewers
correct,
with
yeah.
a little bit of kind of what happens in the story, right? I mean, there's really not that much to it. Brian Cox is in prison, again, serving a life sentence. We don't know what he did. We never find out what he did or why he's in prison. In fact, we don't find it out about most of the characters, but they're in
Yeah.
there. They're stuck together. At the time, I think he's getting a new cellmate, which is this young kid played by Dominic Cooper. And then, not much is really happening except for seeing kind of Dominic Cooper adapt to prison life. And then as we become more intimate with Brian Cox's character, we find out that he has a daughter, probably in her 20s or 30s. She's a drug addict. She's overdosed at least once or twice before, and I think she recently had an episode. So at this point, he's really fearful for her life and decides that this is the incentive that he needed to plan an elaborate escape. He recruits Liam Cunningham, his character. I did not write down his character's name, but the two of them start working, and they end up Liam Cunningham was good because he knew like the ins and outs of the prison. They end up recruiting Joseph Fiennes' character because he picks locks and he can get through situations.
Break, get through steel.
Get through steel. I forgot who else they recruit.
Batista, Sue George.
Yes, I don't remember why. Oh, because he makes it. Yeah, he's a chemist. Yeah, there's an illegal drug cartel in the prison. He was the chemist, so he kind of plays a pivotal role as well. And yeah, so they start to hatch their plan, and then one of the antagonists kind of catches wind of it and really puts a wrench in their plans. But then we kind of see the time for the escape arrives, and so we see them going through it. We see everything that goes wrong, and they overcome challenge after challenge. Like we said, Brian Cox takes on a pretty bad injury. But some of them don't make it, but eventually we get to the end with him and Dominic Cooper's character, which is when then there's a flashback. We find out that actually Brian Cox died after a confrontation with the kingpin of the prison, played by Damian Lewis. So it was kind of all in his head. It was all in his head. But but I guess some of the other guys did escape.
Yeah, he didn't even escape. Yeah, he not only did he die, but he didn't even attempt the escape. So
Mm.
yeah, so that's why I got to my ending and how I was very disappointed with that. And hearing that, it was a book and it's like, oh, okay. Then it was
Yeah,
just poorly adapted, it seems. But
exactly.
hey, it seems like you enjoyed it though.
It didn't bother me that much. Like I was surprised by it. I didn't see it coming. You're not supposed to. But yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it. It didn't necessarily like elevate the movie for me or made it worse. It was like a decent enough, enjoyable kind of I guess in my mind it just seemed like a low budget movie, so I wasn't expecting much out of it. I was just like, "Hey, if you can keep my attention, if you can kind of entertain me, then I don't
If
mind being in
if the
prison."
twist at least makes you to shoot some air out of your nose, like
Yeah, but it sounds
you're
like
okay with it.
that was the problem, that the whoever fell in love with that story and was like, "Boom, let's try to make that," but there's a lot of things that they needed to do to really make it shine at a cinematic level. So,
Yeah.
like for example, my biggest pet peeve. There's a really big problem that I see in this movie with the plot. A really big problem that just makes no sense to me. So we're gonna get to that. But my biggest pet peeve overall was that I think Mark said it right. You said that Brian Cox's story is pretty. I mean, there's not much to it,
Yeah.
and so they had to come up, or with this whole dream scenario or whatever, to kind of fill in an entire half of the movie. At least that's the way it comes across. So the problem is that you don't get to know the characters intimately. They purposely don't tell you like why he's in prison. They leave these things vague, non-existent. You don't really get to know him, like, so that you kind of make up in your mind if you like him or not, if you're going to root for him or not, based off of some characteristics or just innately like who he is. Especially, and that's, for me, that's especially important when you're dealing with characters in prison, right? You really need to know background information to make them relatable. Because again, take Brian Cox's character. We don't know who he is. We don't know why he's in prison. We know that he had a family and that he has a daughter who's a drug addict who overdosed. Um, and that's what provides him with urgency to plan his escape. And that's the movie. So while we understand that, there's a big lack of context that prevents us from developing any real empathy or sympathy for his character, because he could have been a thief that got caught, and that would allow us to kind of say, okay, wrong place, wrong time, or he made some bad decisions or whatever. Now he's in prison. Or he could have massacred 100 people, right? Or like, been a serial rapist or something like that. And in our mind, like we don't know. But we know that he's in there for life, and it's usually not great people that are in there for life. So just the fact that they left some of those things blank, uh, unformed, made it, I think, hard to become emotionally invested in the movie.
So if you knew that he was a serial rapist, you would have been way more interested in this movie and rooting for him to go see his junkie daughter.
Rooting against them, perhaps.
But his daughter's got one heartbeat away.
Like my problem is like they didn't even like what we were saying about the daughter thing, which was like probably the most interesting thing. Like it's the whole movie, and then all of a sudden he gets a letter like, "Hey, she's doing really bad." He's like, "All right, guys, we got to go." But that's so far into the movie. Then you're like, "Oh man, he's doing this for his daughter," and then they're going, and then he gets the letter, "Hey, she's died." I'm like, okay, well that was it. Just happened to me. It happened so short span towards the end that I'm like, all right, what? That's when I started feeling from a little bit, but like they could have just introduced that in the beginning, and that's why he wanted to like get moving on the plan.
Yeah. And then why did he let what's his name take his spot? Was it so because he
Oh,
had
'cause
that thing with RZA?
no, because sort of, but also like I think once
Is
his
it
daughter
Riza or
died,
RZA?
I think it
RZA?
was RZA.
RZA, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
RZA. But like I think once his daughter died, he had no desire to leave anymore because he was a lifer. So
Yeah.
he's like, hey, yeah. So he provided the distraction by going, and now they're stabbing him, and everyone's worried about that. And he knew he was
Yeah.
gonna die. He let everyone else escape.
Yeah. All right, I feel you.
I mean, on the other side of the coin, you have the same issue with the antagonist, right? The villain, who's Damian Lewis's character RZA, and his brother, I forgot his brother's
Tony?
name, Tony.
How
So
could you forget Tony?
they're clearly the
He threw a wrench in
villains,
something.
but with RZA, like again, you don't know enough about him to place him. I mean, it was so weird because he was like not only the top dog of the prisoners, he was like even the guards, even like everyone in the prison answered to him. So we
That
know that yeah, go ahead.
no, just to say that it had his character had no point to the movie. Zero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Zero
It's just to
whatsoever.
provide tension.
yeah.
I guess, yeah, but it's literally about this guy trying to get out and escape, and that's it. There was no need for a villain. There was no need for Tony, the little gremlin. Like I don't understand the whole point of that. And those were my like the funniest scenes to me because I'm just sitting here going, why are we watching this? Like why is this happening? Um but yeah,
Broke
no,
down moment.
just to go off what you're saying, his character just had no point.
He was a rapist gremlin. He loved him some rape.
Did that happen in the shower? Did that actually happen?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure the way that he entered into that cell again.
I don't want to talk.
Yeah, don't ask me. Don't ask me about the shower.
Okay, all right,
But
fair enough.
um, but yeah, man, just that I think you're right. It felt that character, at least RZA, felt unnecessary. Just at least the way that they shaped him and portrayed him.
Yeah,
Kevin mentioned this during his intro too, but the pacing of the film was also a weak point. Again, at times there was just a lack of dialogue that really kind of made the movie feel like it was dragging. Um, it seemed like an intentional decision to set things up with as little exposition as possible, but I think that was a bad choice that didn't help the movie and it held it back. And the only time that I really found it effective, like the lack of dialogue, was when either his wife or ex-wife, again, we don't know, when she goes to the prison and you know they don't even speak. She just, as soon as he looks at her, she breaks down crying, so we know that it's the worst of news, which is that his daughter died. And I liked Brian Cox's performance in that scene. I really liked the actress's performance in that scene, Bernadette McKenna. But that was, one of the more effective uses of not no dialogue. But in at other times it really felt like a big void and absence in the movie because it didn't give us the character development that we so desired.
I don't know, man. When Tony was just standing there creepily just staring at you, I don't know, man. I felt like I was getting a lot from him.
Bro, speaking of I guess, I mean, I don't I I don't know that they had many other opportunities, but the middle of the cafeteria seems like the worst place to try to secretly hatch a plan to escape, where there's like people standing above you. Like,
Okay,
why not in the prison yard? Why not, sending notes or something? Like,
Juan, there was a guy who had a full-blown lab in his cell. Of course, they're able to talk about their plan just sitting out in the open with dominoes going, yeah, we're playing dominoes. All right, guys. And then they're stacking them. Any person in there automatically should know, wait, they ain't playing dominoes. But it's just that type of prison. I mean,
Well,
they're
in an
living
American prison, there would be some brothers that would say that ain't no mother effing dominoes. But in a British prison, that may be how they play dominoes in a British prison.
bro. So you got these fights, these prison fights that the guards are just standing up, just watching.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
let him go, let him at it.
you got Tony the Gremlin telling another guard, "Yeah, give me just 5 minutes." Like it's just
Okay.
that whole place was just a magic land of what type of prison is this? But I guess it makes sense if somehow RZA had all the power and it went through him, I guess. But really, Tony and RZA, there was no point. No point, and I really wonder if they were included in the book. Like, were there rape scenes mentioned in
Well,
the book?
no, well, the book's not about prison at all. It's about something else. It's just the same thing about where the guy's dead and the whole story happens in his mind. Is where
Oh,
they
okay.
borrowed from it.
So,
Yeah.
oh, gotcha. Okay,
Just that
that's all
aspect.
it is. So, and then they just added
Yeah.
RZA and Tony. Got you.
Yeah, whole story about that.
Well, here's again that's a big kind of flaw in the movie, just the whole way that they try to plan their escape. But here's I mean, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems like a big plot hole. So what happens is that Tony, who's Riz's brother, right, and Riz is the head guy, Tony's his rapist, homosexual, or bisexual brother, who's like in paradise in prison because he gets to have sex with all these guys, and because Riz is his brother, they can't do anything about him, even though he's a little wormy, skinny guy.
Yeah.
So he finds out about their plan to escape. And again, this is why I know he loves raping in prison, because he doesn't go, all right, I'm going with you guys. Instead, he tries to extort them. And he
Yeah.
says, you know, make me an enormous batch of drugs. That's how you have to pay me for me to keep this quiet. So then they come up with the plan. They're like, all right, well, we're going to poison this batch of drugs that we're going to give to him. Somehow this was this came out of nowhere. This surprised me, but because he seemed like an idiot, but he was smart enough, right, to bring a crackhead with him and
Yeah.
say, all right, no, this guy's is my tester. I'm no dummy. He's gonna test the drugs and make sure, and then I'll have some. So um
Crackhead Joe.
again, because so we have Brian Cox's character in the cell, we have Dominic Cooper's character in the cell because they're cellmates. He's already been raped. We have Tony in the cell, and we have the crackhead in the cell, right? This is what's happening. So
Wait, you can't forget Frank has also been threatened of rape.
oh yeah, he's probably been raped at some point too. He's just so hardened at this point. It's like, what's another rape? I've seen it all, been through it all. But so this is the setup in the cell. So now they're freaking out. They're like, "Oh crap, this guy's smarter than we thought. He's going to find out that we poison these drugs." But of course, Dominic Cooper can't stop thinking about this guy that raped him. So he just starts flashing red. That's all that he sees. Jumps out of bed and kills the brother, right? While the crackhead's still there,
Tony, yeah.
who's about to do the poisonous drugs.
Oh, he had already consumed it while that was happening.
But Riz is not there. No one else is there. They're the only ones in that cell. So why didn't they just say this crackhead flipped out and killed him? And that's what happened.
Right.
Because from that point on, the whole story pivots around Riz is going to come and he's going to start asking questions about what happened to his brother, and they're going to have to come up with a lot. Like the whole story now at this point hinges on that moment, when the whole time you have a perfect alibi sitting right there. Like, I don't understand why not go that route. And like Brian Cox is supposed to be so smart. Like why
Never
didn't he? Why
tell a
did,
lie, bro. Never tell a lie.
prison code? Raping's fine. This we draw the line at dishonesty.
You don't have your word, you have nothing.
But does that make sense? Did
No,
you pick up on that too?
I really thought that's how it was gonna go. I thought they were just gonna say, "Yeah, man, that guy flipped," and they were just like, "Yeah, man, I can't get." Oh, what was his character's name? Hold on. Lacey. I can't. I don't want. I'm not gonna give up Lacey. Like, what? Why would you tell him that Lacey did anything? You just say the crackhead, and they had to find the crackhead dead anyways. So I guess that would have probably came around back to them, but that would have been later on down the road. They would have been on the road, like escaping already.
It just really bothered me, man.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel you on that. It was pretty silly.
Only took a while to die, didn't he?
No,
That
I
guy?
mean, no.
When he
did he?
fell
Yeah, he
fell
was
down the
cool.
stairs.
He was going down the stairs. I thought he was going to die in the cell. He's like, yeah.
But it was just yeah, that just didn't make sense to me.
I really enjoyed the hold on, what's his name? The guy that Lenny Drake. I loved how he had to have his hoodie on the whole time. It really it made me laugh how he was always tucking it, making sure it was straight. I'm like, man, this guy's dedicated. Um, and his character just I don't know why he had to be a kickboxer to break through steel because he didn't even punch through anything. Like, I thought when they got to that part with the wall that was kind of like brittle if you hit it with a pipe, I thought
Yeah.
he was gonna start punching it like we see him doing all this kickboxing, and no, you just see somebody hitting it with a steel pipe. So his character was just all altogether funny to me. Lenny Drake.
Well, and again, that was another stretch of the imagination, right? So the character you're mentioning, Drake, they come up with another plan, which is that they need something sharp. And lo and behold, one of the prisoners has the hardest substance uh, known to man attached to his tooth, which is a diamond, right? So the plan is for Drake to pick a fight with this guy, with 2 ton, and whatever happens, happens. But at some point in this fight, Drake, don't mess this up, bro. If you don't get this, the whole plan is kaput.
Shot.
You got to land the perfect punch to knock that one tooth out with the diamond. Like that's the odds of being able to pull that off have to be astronomical.
And then you have to recover that diamond off the floor, surrounded by people,
Without losing consciousness, because you also just got this demolished.
I mean, Lenny Drake can do it all, bro.
It was incredible.
Did y'all know who played 2 ton, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that in your fun facts?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Yeah. So what I thought would have been better, or at the moment that I was suspicious that this might have been the case, I would have liked it, but it turned out not to be. So Liam Cunningham's character, who I really liked, he ends up dying when he is crawling through a hole that ends up falling, collapsing. That's the word. Collapses on top of him. When we find out that it's a dream, there's a scene between Brian Cox and Damian Lewis's RZA where he like sees his little music box and he like opens it up when he's in Brian Cox's cell. I thought that maybe Brian Cox maybe went kamikaze and kind of wired that thing to explode and would have killed them both, but that would have been what created the collapse that killed Liam Cunningham.
Yeah, yeah.
But But Brody didn't die. Wasn't Brody in the? Brody was helped him after he got stabbed.
At this point, I don't know who's alive and who's dead.
Yeah, because he didn't really die because that was Frank's character just imagining the escape.
So Brian Cox is the only one that died.
Well, I don't know what happened to the other ones because we don't know what happened during the escape.
Did
Actually,
they even escape?
well, yeah,
Right.
they went through the hole and then we don't know what happened. Like all that was Brian
okay.
Cox memory because at one point they looked like they were running through the mines of Moria or whatever with those big old
Mhm.
pillars. It looked like
Mhm.
Lord of the Rings down there.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, did they what magical land did they uncover by going
Narnia.
through this wall?
So it makes sense that it was his dream because man, those were like huge. They were just all just running to the light, and then it all ends up in the subway.
Yeah, man, that was incredible. That giant stairwell that they walked down. It's like, man, where the hell are they? But
That
that
was
was pretty funny how they played it off.
that was one of my favorite shots though.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when they're walking down that again staircase. That's a stairwell.
Yeah,
That should be
was
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that
just
shot.
because it felt like I don't know, it felt like a new movie, a whole new place, a whole new I don't know. And maybe that was the whole point of it, because that's, they're out of prison and it's supposed to feel different. But that shot was just, it was so interesting. The way they did it and how it just made me think.
hmm I really liked the Leonard Cohen song that opened and closed the film. I really enjoyed that. And then, dude, I mean, I have been a pretty big fan. I don't know, big fan, but I enjoy the show Succession on HBO with Brian Cox.
Yeah, I want to watch
And
that.
bro, this man doesn't age. He looks exactly the same. He looks like he's looked that way since he was 50. He might be a dwarf.
Hey, you never
He-
know, man.
He looks the same as the X-Men 2, man.
Yeah.
Like in 2002.
X-Men 2, Troy, like he doesn't change.
Yeah, that is true.
That's impressive.
He's looking a little whiter, maybe, hair
Maybe.
wise.
He'd be
Maybe.
I thought you meant a little more Caucasian. I was like, okay.
No, that's not a sign.
That's
don't
what I
think.
thought too.
Oh my gosh. No, his hair.
Uh,
Yeah, my bad.
Um,
I don't know why it was just so incredible to me that guy had a whole laboratory in his cell. That made me really sit back and go, what am I watching here? What is happening? This guy is like, I mean, and it's set up like he's got shelves and beakers and bottles with covered, like he's set up to the brim, and he's in prison. So, and I thought it was funny because he had like the flashiest shirt. I don't know if you noticed that, but he didn't have like that regular shirt that everybody else wore. He had like a really flashy button down. But I'm like, why does he get to wear that? What is this prison? What is happening here? The guards really were really non-existent. It was pretty funny. They were only really standing around and watching. They, I think they only got involved when there was blood. So, I mean, maybe that's. It's just, I guess that's the point of RZA, but that's not the point of this movie,
yeah.
So it's funny. It's funny when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, as far as Seu George having a cool shirt, I mean, that guy walks into a room, he's just going to be the coolest person in the room. So he probably just walked in with that shirt in the scene, and the director was like, whatever, just let him wear it. He looks cool.
dude,
Um,
he was in City of God.
oh, that's right. Yeah,
Rock Out Ned. Nice.
was also in that. I thought of something, but I don't really have much else on this one, fellas.
yeah, it was okay. It's not really I guess it was the pacing of the movie and going. I think that was a huge flaw was going between like real time and thought or you know whatever you want to call it, not real happening, maybe
Imaginary.
imaginary.
It's
Yes,
imaginary.
you have an imaginary period happening, and so it's flashing between the two, and it just the flashbacks didn't really feel right, and they didn't make sense to why they were flashing together because normally when it's broken up like that, it's because the two scenes they are weaving together this story. It just felt like, oh, we're gonna kind of progress this side a little bit. All right, let's go over here and progress this side a little bit. All right, let's go over here, and it just was jumping back and forth until you get to the end when, oh, surprise, he didn't go. Um, so that just it never really was an enjoyable movie. I actually was fidgeting around a lot in this movie
Mm.
because there were just a lot of scenes that weren't interesting. Um, I guess the points where they were trying to flesh out the characters and give them some story, didn't really care about that. Because they really only had one purpose. Okay, you're coming because you could do this. You're coming because you could do this, and you're coming because I guess people want to kill you, and then I'm coming because it's my plan, and he's coming. He's my best friend, you know. So everybody had a reason. Um, so it's just, yeah, I don't know. It was not a fun watch.
Mm.
This is one that would be getting tucked away a while. Hopefully, never to see the light of day.
I think besides also like the bloat, like the unnecessary bloated story, it's tricky and hard to say, hey, as an audience, invest an hour and a half into this story, and then a big portion of the story, you're gonna say, hey, we're just joking, that doesn't matter, that never happened. Because
The
now,
most
as a,
interesting part of
yeah,
the
the most
story.
interesting it was getting interesting, and you're like, ha, wait, and I don't think they pulled that off. Like again, like in the other story and stories I've read like that about like a slave who got hung and ran away to the north, lived his whole life, and when he's on his deathbed with his family, it cuts back to him being hung, and you just see he died. Those were more like interesting stories, and this payoff just wasn't. It just felt like you gave us that escape, and we were invested in Brody died, all this other stuff. Like Brian Cox was hurting, and like Dominic Cooper's Lacey was like, "Hey, come on," and they still finish it off, and he's doing that walk. But then you're like, none of that happened. You invested your time, and that added to feeling like it was bloated that they added it when they didn't. When it just, I don't think they pulled off the trick well enough for me to say, "Hey, that was good."
Why did he think about his best friend dying? That sucks.
Yeah.
Have anybody else die?
Well, I think it was in parallel to like when he was stabbed and he's like Brody and he was reaching for him too. And like that's how he was reaching, but he was the one dying, not Brody.
Mm.
Or at least that's the most I can make out of it. I'm trying to parallel everything.
What I did like is I did like seeing Brian Cox as the main character, as the protagonist. He's a great actor that can hold his own in that position. But I don't think that there are too many opportunities for, guys at that age or older to have a role like this in a film about a prison break and be the main character. So I did enjoy that they went, allowed that to happen, and just for the fact that it's probably those opportunities for an actor of that age are few and far in between. And again, I think he did do a good job with it.
I think the
Yeah.
romantic in me is remember what was it, Willie Nelson in The Thief?
Yeah.
I was like, man, what if this is how Willie Nelson's character died? And it was just like a little side story. It's like he's dead. I'm like, all this happened in those 2 minutes.
No. Well, I mean, I think we're ready for the reviews,
That's
the
about it.
ratings. The
What? No,
ratings are in.
don't we get fun facts first?
Well, now we get to see him scramble to find the sound effects, which have been non-existent for this entire episode.
I don't see you reaching for anything.
I'm not the sound guy. I'm just saying. What was?
Can't hear you, bud.
Did you mute yourself?
Not a
You're
good
me-
stat.
Yeah. Are you gonna play the fun facts music? Oh, we're ready for fun facts.
Did that not play? What is going on with this? I played
I
it.
knew it. I knew that was happening.
Is that what
Right.
you were doing?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was doing my
he's
whole thing.
dancing.
I don't know. I don't get this new setup. By the way, we just so people at home know we're trying a new setup, and this is what happens.
You probably could just play the sound effect through your computer.
I probably can't.
Oh, man.
Okay. Well, da 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 na 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 da na 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 na. I'm sound deaf. You can't hear you anymore. All right. These are the fun facts for the Escapist. So again, starting off with Brian Cox in the role of Frank Perry, Mark. Frank
Yes.
Perry, the character,
Yes.
was written specifically for Brian Cox by the director, Rupert Wyatt, who had worked with Cox before. And
Come on, man. Keep it going, bro. Hold it together.
he's worked with Cox before. That's all I'm saying. He worked with Cox before, and he wanted to work with him again. When Cox
Heard
refused,
that.
but Cox refused a supporting role in a movie that Wyatt offered him and challenged him to write him a good leading role. So Wyatt went off and did exactly that.
Failed him.
He was desperate to work with Cox. Next, yeah,
That is a fun fact.
I
That
hear
was-
you.
That is pretty good.
All right.
Pretty bold of him to make that that declaration. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
do this for me, and
Yeah.
then him backing it up.
Oh, you want to work with me? Well, write a good script.
Well, see you later.
That's how it goes down in Hollywood. Director Rupert Wyatt.
Uh-huh.
I have not seen the DVD commentary for this, but supposedly in the DVD commentary, director Rupert Wyatt reveals that Damian Lewis, who played Rizza, wore ladies' underwear throughout the whole filming.
Why? Why?
I mean, there was
That's very-
something about the way he walked.
Yeah,
That
it was
I-
very uptight.
I think it was something for his character.
Okay.
It was weird. It was such a weird character, man. Just bizarre.
Yeah, definitely.
Just that actor, like he kind of I don't know how I feel about Damian Lewis.
No,
Hey,
Name
I
I mean, I'm not saying I dislike him personally. I'm trying to think of a role where he's like blown me away.
saw him.
heard-
I first saw
Oh.
him in Black Sails. He was
I heard he's
good.
in Homeland. Isn't he?
Band
in
of Brothers. Band of Brothers. He was
Yeah,
in.
he is good in Homeland too.
But I
or
just feel
as
like
well.
yeah, I heard that was good too. I just think he has a look that is good for specific roles, and a way about him that there's certain roles that he fits. This one, he did not fit, in my opinion.
Okay.
Oh, look at this. Director Rupert Wyatt said he based the plot on the Ambrose Bierce short story, An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. This is the book that lead character Frank Perry is shown reading, and that he shows Rizza near the end of the film.
Oh. There it is.
This film unites two actors who have been in Wes Anderson films: Seu Jorge in The Life Aquatic, and Brian Cox in Rushmore.
Mm,
The song, again at
all
the
right.
beginning and at the end, performed by Leonard Cohen, is
Mhm.
called The Partisan.
The Partisan.
Do you guys remember when you used to pop in a CD and after the last track played, you thought it was over, but lo and behold, a hidden track started to ring out to your surprise and amazement?
Always, bro.
Well, the movie credits Coldplay with a track called The Escapist. I tried looking for this on an album that they released at that time, which would have been Viva La Vida or Death and All His Friends, but I
Yeah.
couldn't find it. So apparently it's a hidden track in that album, which I don't
Mm.
remember.
It's probably like at the end, like you just let the last song play.
Like 20 minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
ooh,
I'll let you experiment with that and verify.
maybe I will.
Kevin, WWE wrestler Sheamus has a
Seamus.
pretty significant role in this, but also Conor McGregor is an extra is an extra. Conor McGregor is an extra in this.
I looked for him and I didn't know where he was. He looks very different in them.
It must have been his bald head Conor McGregor, because I couldn't
Hmm.
see him either.
And last but not least, Brian Cox won the Scottish BAFTA Award for Best Film Performance for this role.
Wow. Very nice.
That's
Those
all
are
I got for you.
those are fun. Those are fun.
Always.
You want to hit us with that outro song? Maybe the intro? Oh,
Ratings.
oh.
Ratings. Kevin, you're up first.
Don't speak over the song though. There you go.
Yeah, Mark
Alright.
was raving.
It was about to go off.
He was in Zion in the Matrix.
Let's not see some glow sticks. I don't know what I can say that hasn't already been said.
I figured out.
Okay premise, bloated story. Again, watch the Twilight Zone episode based on an occurrence. It's a lot quicker, a lot to the point, more to the point. Some decent performances. I probably will never watch this movie again. It wasn't horrible, so I will give it a dose. That is 2.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. That's lower than I thought.
Oh, I thought Mark thought it
No, I thought you were gonna do a 3.
was
I'm gonna jump in real quick. Cause yeah, it's about the same as Kevin. It's not horrendous, but I'll never watch this again. If it's on at the hotel and it's there, yeah, I might keep it on. Probably not. No, I'd probably keep it on. But that's about it. So it is a 2 little Jerry's for me as well, unfortunately.
Okay. 2 twos for my 2 compadres.
Mm.
For me, again, when I watched it, I liked it more than I do now after talking about it. I feel like those flaws really, really bother me now in retrospect. But I have to judge it by the experience of watching it and how I felt in that moment, which was
Mhm.
it was okay. It wasn't terrible, you know. I didn't mind the twist that much just because it felt like something different. I wasn't angered like, oh, this was all fake or whatever. I was just like, okay, so he died and that was some final illusion or something. So I did not get half a point. I had it originally at a 3.5, but that's high. So I knocked it a half a point. So it's a three little Jerry's for me.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I would never go out of my way to watch this again. I don't want to say never, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of other movies I'd prefer to spend my precious time on.
for sure.
But with that being said, I would ask you guys if someone said, "Hey, I'm gonna watch the Escapist," never seen it before, and you felt obliged to stop them in their tracks and say, "No, if you're in the mood for a good Prison Break movie, watch this instead." What would you recommend?
I should have known this was coming.
You mean if these people haven't seen The Shawshank Redemption?
You should always know this is coming. Always be ready. And yeah, well, yeah, go ahead. If that's, I mean, if that's your answer.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, the first thing I meant, have you seen Shawshank? No?
I don't know what it's about. Yeah, I don't know too many Prison Break movies, but I would probably say something like Ocean's 11. Like a
A
caper
heist.
like that.
Similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That
The
they're
actual crime.
those are very similar genres.
Yeah.
If you think about it. I honestly can't think of many except for Shawshank and Escape from Alcatraz.
Yeah, Escape from
I've
Alcatraz.
never seen that one either.
And then yeah, which one?
Is The Getaway a Prison Break movie? I don't think.
The Great Escape is.
The Great Escape, that's what I was saying.
The Great Escape, yeah.
Oh.
That's a Nazi camp. I mean, same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question is, have either of you guys ever seen the show Prison Break?
No, I have not. I know Kevin has, yeah.
I didn't finish it, but I saw it.
I've always heard that it's very good, but I've just
Yeah,
never wanted to commit to it.
You enjoy it, right?
It's very much like Heroes, where season 1 is great. And then they were like, oh, they want a second season of us breaking out of prison. Still good. And then they're like, third season. Hey, now you're in a Mexican prison. And now you're like, now you got to escape again. And now we got to break this guy out. And then season 4, you're like, all right, man, just give up. Like, how much prison breaking can you do?
Someone told me that show was amazing.
Yeah, and then like Heroes was really good in the first season, and then they just kept retreading stuff. Like I said, it was good. It's just you get diminishing returns, but it's definitely worth seeing that first season.
I mean, Heroes, on the other hand, you're the only person I ever hear talk about Heroes.
The first season was good. The first season was good. You want me to call Nelbo? I will call Nelbo here like for season 1 too.
No,
okay. I'll take your word for it. Well, yeah, just curious. All right, well, you heard it here. We watched it. We lived through it. We were fairly disappointed with this one. I think that's fair to say. But I mean, I think it's been a pretty fun trip through the decades. We covered the 70s, the 80s, the 2000s. Maybe at some point we'll circle back around and try this again. But I have other ideas for other series as well. So if you are watching this because you're subscribed, then tell a friend. If you enjoy, and hopefully you've enjoyed looking at us too. But yeah, I have no more to say. You guys want to sign off?
Love you.
Later, haters.